Hello and welcome back to another episode of Epic Generation in the Neighborhood. Today I am co-hosting with Noah Aquino. You may have seen him on season 1 of Epic Generation and our last Epic Gen in the Neighborhood with the Tammy Coalition for Mental Health Week.
Yes, hello everyone. Thank you, Raisa, for allowing me to be with you and co-host this episode again. And we are so excited, and I'm sure all of our viewers are as well. We have a very special guest joining us today, and his name is Francis Manapul. Good evening and welcome, Francis.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Awesome. So even before we get started, some of our Epic Gen cast members will be joining us shortly. So I'd like to remind our cast and our audience of what time it is. It is time for our snack and chat. Make sure that you grab your water, chomp down on your snack, and let's chat.
Yes, we love to eat and drink. Well, water specifically.
Water.
Yeah. But now, Francis, you are a comic book artist, and you are now the writer and artist for the DC's New 52, The Flash. Now, please tell us, what is it like working for DC?
So working for DC, to me, it's equivalent to growing up watching basketball and getting to play for the Raptors or the New York Knicks. I'm old enough to know when we didn't have the Raptors, so that's why I'm a Knicks fan. You grew up in Toronto, you were either a Knicks fan or a Detroit Pistons fan, picking a team in the East, right? So it was extremely exciting to illustrate the characters that I grew up with, and it was even more exciting once I got to write them, right? So with the New 52, the Flash was really a great, platform for me to write and illustrate, which led me to eventually writing and drawing Batman, and then eventually writing and drawing Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman in the same book. So getting to draw all of these characters that you grew up with, it's like eating an ice cream sundae every day, except it's very tiring.
Yeah, I can imagine, but It's a fantastic Sunday to have every day. Now, this is almost, one of the highlights of your career, if not the highlight so far. But what amount of work or what kind of work did you have to do to get to this point in your career?
So the way comics work, it's kind of like, that song that goes level up, level up, level up, level up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're kind of, you start working for smaller companies and you're kind of just slowly climbing up, right? Now, the quality of your work, sometimes it's both a combination of the quality, the timing, and the right character, right? Because for a long time, I think sometimes it's almost like if you were an actor and you were miscast in the wrong role, and then people think you're terrible, but then suddenly in the right role, it fits just right. And for me, when I started working at DC, that the breakout point was getting to draw Superboy, which was a character I wasn't particularly too aware of, but that particular thing, the environment of it being on the farm and where my art was heading at that particular time really suited it well. So I had actually been wanting to draw the Flash for a long time, but it wasn't until I drew Superboy that led me to that book eventually, right? So everything is kind of layers, right? I would say the most difficult aspect of it was kind of being self-motivated, right? Because as an artist, you're not exactly working in an office. So when you go to an office, you know that from 9 to 5, you're mostly going to be working. Mostly anyways, right?
Yeah.
But with comics, there's nobody behind you saying, hey, keep going. So you have to be very diligent with your time and with your ability to complete, because to me, that's one of the most important things that I did earlier in my career that allowed me to progress, was that I was a very timely artist, And when you combine that with, I guess, people liking it and sales and so forth. So there's a lot of factors that lead into how you progress in the field. But what it kind of ultimately boils down to is, as cheesy as it sounds, it's hard work and discipline.
And that actually brings us into our next question, and that is, how do you get into that disciplined mindset, or getting, very hyper focused when you have like deadlines to meet?
Yeah, so one of the things that I do is, at this point, this is aging me, but like, so when I was younger, I can be powered purely by excitement and energy, right? So this is the first time I'm drawing Superboy, so I'm excited. It's the first time I'm drawing the Flash, so I'm pumped, right? But just like anything that you're excited about, eventually that fades. So what's left is kind of your discipline and your draftsmanship, I guess, right? And I find that the only way to stay disciplined, even when I'm not excited, is to get in the mind frame of completing something, right? So by that, I mean, what I'll do sometimes is, when you look at a comic book page, it's daunting to look at the entire issue, right? Because, oh man, it's 22 pages or 20 pages. So rather than looking at it I look at it as only one panel at a time, right? So I just complete one thing at a time. So even when I'm not excited, as I complete one, I get in that, everyone's talking about that flow state, right? How do you get to that flow state? I can't start unless, well, it's not how it works, right? So sometimes what I'll actually do is do something completely separate from drawing. So I'll do something that is completable within 20 minutes or 30 minutes. So sometimes I'll do something like, I'll do the dishes, right? Has nothing to do with comic books, but there's a beginning, middle, and end of that, right? And when I complete that task, there's this feeling of completion, right? And I try to transfer that energy over to my work, right? So maybe it'll be tidying up my desk, or anything that really will give you a sense of completion and closure, because it's that energy that kind of transfers over to the next. And then that's when I go from panel to panel. And then by the time midday comes, I went from completely unmotivated to work, or not in the flow state, or not inspired. But by the time that I'm going, suddenly I am now in that state of energy and flow, not because I was sitting around waiting to be inspired, but because I just started going, right? It's like working out. You don't want to go to the gym. Nobody does. But once you're there, suddenly you're like, oh man, like this feels great, right? And it's just like anything else. And you can really apply this to any work that's not just art. It's really, it transcends more than the creative field. It's kind of just a way of thinking, really.
Yeah, wow. That is something I need to apply myself when it comes to just getting the work done and what have you. But going back to the Flash, and again working for DC, what this is your biggest project, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that would be my biggest claim to fame, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, arguably, you could say that the bigger book was when I got to write and draw Detective Comics, because one, it has Batman, and two, that's what the company is named after, And I guess one could argue that the next project after that, which has, it's a book called Trinity, which has Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, is arguably bigger. So I would say that I'm most known for the Flash, because I think that's really where I made my name. But I think the projects after that have been incrementally bigger in terms of how those books are perceived within the company, right? And
Right.
yeah, I mean, it's otherwise I have to believe that the best of my career happened more than 10 years ago.
Now, do you have a dream project of your own?
I do. I'm working on all of those right now. So I'm not sure how many people keep up with any of my social media stuff, but right now I'm pursuing creator-owned stuff. So my
Mm,
main focus has been less DC and more
mm,
of my own creations. So currently I'm working on a book with this amazing writer. We've created a brand new character in a brand new world. And what's actually kind of great is literally a couple of days ago, I just drew a scene set in Manila. So that was
oh,
great.
wow.
Um, and for the foreseeable future, I would say that a lot of the new material coming out from me will be characters that I created. I love DC, so I'll always have my hand in there somewhere. So I do create covers for them on a regular basis and short stories. But for the most part, I've been transitioning from being full time at DC to DC really being my part super part time job, and then
Mhm.
mostly working on my own stuff.
Oh my god, that's amazing. Imagine like just saying the biggest comic industry and you're like, no, that's my part-time job. I love that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, we cannot wait to see the more but can we get like a little insight? Like who's the character? But
No, because an announcement is coming very, very soon.
Okay.
Um, I, I think the only thing I can say is that one of the things that I really like about this project is that I've been able to really explore my art within the context of the story a lot more than I have before. Because when you're working for DC, there's certain parameters that you need to stay within for these characters. Superman needs to look like a handsome, square-jawed man, right? And Batman needs to look brooding. And so there's these parameters that really you should try to stay within in order to portray those characters in the appropriate way. So with the new book, I'm able to really explore much moodier color schemes that are much more familiar to you when you watch film and movies, right? Because in a film, if I can control your emotions by picking the right color tones that evoke certain emotions. And in comics, it's a bit difficult to do that with, say, Superman. He should be blue and red, but you know what I mean. But with film, if when you're watching it, they do a lot of color grading to really create the sense of atmosphere
Mhm.
that is irrelevant to what color coat they're wearing. It's more about the emotion and the creating an evocative scene that makes you feel like you're there. So from that respect, that's something that I'm getting to explore more on this project.
yeah, very nice. Oh my gosh, this is so exciting, and I definitely think it is time to welcome our Epic Gen cast. We are going to take our snack and chat break, so just grab your water, take a sip, and we're gonna welcome them in. All right. Hello, Ava. Hello, Nino.
Oh, look at everyone coming in.
Hello, Celeste. Hi, guys. How are
Hello,
you
everyone.
today?
We're good.
We're good.
Hi guys.
Oh my gosh,
Hello,
our little
everyone.
superheroes. So, do any of you have a question for Francis? Yes, no, maybe so. Hmm.
Oh, I have one.
Oh, okay.
What is your favorite villain in DC Universe?
Uh oh, that's really hard. It's probably it's I have two favorite characters, and they both kind of have the same powers. I like Mr. Freeze, but I also like Captain Cold from The Flash, and both of them have ice powers. I think I just like cold.
Nino,
Yeah, who's your favorite character? Nino, who's your favorite
Oh.
character?
In DC.
Yeah.
I'll say no. I think it is Superman.
Superman. Yeah, everybody loves Superman. But what about bad guy?
Not so much.
Yeah, because they're bad.
That's okay. Celeste, do you have a favorite superhero or villain in the DC universe?
I don't have one. It's hard to choose.
Yeah, too hard to choose. Do you have a question for Francis?
Yes. Francis, where do you get your inspiration to create comics?
From a lot of things. Like initially, when I was a kid, it was from reading other comics and kind of trying to create my own. When I was a kid, me and my cousin would staple together pieces of paper and make our own comics and make our own characters. And we think they're original, but really they all look just like the X-Men or the Justice League. But I would say these days, a lot of the things that inspire me are certain, I would say, two things. I used to read, what's it called? I think it's Popular Science or one of those science magazines. And I kind of just really like reading weird new discoveries because sometimes that really activates my imagination. I did that quite a bit when I was writing The Flash. And also, sometimes I like to write about how I'm feeling, but I won't write exactly about what I'm feeling, but I'll write a story that creates a similar impression of what I'm feeling, right? So it won't be, it's not me writing that I am angry today because nobody wants to read that. But maybe I'll write something that is, I guess, relatable in that aspect that makes me feel like something that I think I can understand, and hopefully something that you felt before and that you understand. So when you're reading the book, it feels like something that is relatable to you as a reader.
Very interesting. Celeste is an artist herself. So Celeste, does that help?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. That's amazing. Would you draw comics yourself, Celeste or Nino?
Well, I think I drew a comic once.
Very funny ones.
Oh, cool.
That's great. Yeah.
Very nice. I saw. Oh, Ava, what are you waving around there? Don't be shy. Let's see it. Wow.
Oh, look at that.
We have some comic books at our house. We have a lot of comic books, actually.
Yeah. That's
Francis, do you
awesome.
recognize that one?
Graded. I do recognize that one. It's graded and everything.
Yeah.
Whoa, look at that.
Look at
Wow. I'll do my best to become super popular so that way those are worth something someday.
that. They're already worth something today.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
That's
Oh my
great.
God.
Wow, that's so
Yeah.
cool.
Thanks for showing that, Eva.
Yeah, thank you. That's great.
Now, Francis, if there's one thing we already love, it's your genuine personality and your honesty, and that definitely shows for those that don't know in his YouTube channel. And you bring an honest perspective into the comic book industry. And you were talking about something called the Hero Initiative. Could you tell our audience what that is about?
So the Hero Initiative it's this organization that raises funds for creators in the past who kind of encounter difficult times, right? So imagine, because it was different back then, right? So similar to how your Lola or your Lolo might have had a different experience. They might have had the exact same job that your parents have now, but back then, certain benefits and certain things were not in place. Creators were not as protected back then as they are now. So this organization really helps with creating a monetary relief for people who are artists who are in need, right? Especially, I think, I think we're very lucky to be in Canada because we have, for all the faults of it, but there's many positive aspects to our healthcare system that allows us to remain healthy and to be able to keep doing what we're doing. But in other countries, they don't have the same things, right? So as an artist, if you get sick or you can't draw, it's not like other jobs where sometimes maybe you have some sort of healthcare benefits that kind of help you through that time. So that's where the Hero Initiative can also step in and help out, right? So it's kind of this charitable organization that really, I guess, metaphorically picks you up when you fall down within the comic book and creative industry.
Very nice. So I guess we have one more question for you then in terms, let me actually put the website down there. If you want to help comic creators like Francis and many, many others, you can go to the Hero Initiative. Oh, and not saying like just personally, I meant like as a whole. I want to put that out there. I worded that pretty badly, but yes, if you just go to the website down there. So I guess our last question would be, would you recommend getting into, like, just say you want to start comics, would you start with like traditional art, pen and paper, or could you just go straight into like Procreate and digital art?
Well, I would say that back then it was typical to do just one discipline. It was very traditional back then. It was one guy draws it in pencil, and then another guy draws it over it with ink, and then another person colors it, and so forth, right? But a lot of that had to do with the scanning process back then. It was difficult to scan anything that wasn't traditional black and white. And things like watercolor art or pencil shading or even ballpoint pen, it was hard to print. But printing has progressed significantly since then. So I would recommend that rather than saying I want to draw with this or I want to draw with that, I have to draw with this, don't look at the tools. Pick the one that you want to use, because there's plenty of artists who've found success painting comics, right? And then some people, some artists who use Procreate on their iPad. At this point, really, if you can scan this thing into a digital file, it's acceptable to use as a comic book. The only thing you need to focus on is getting better at drawing and getting really good at telling stories, because with comic books, it's not just a pretty picture, it's about telling a story. So when you're able to combine those things, that's really what's going to be the recipe for success in comics. And whether you're using an iPad or a computer, it doesn't really matter. It's kind of just whatever you're most comfortable with. And I think one of the things that's been happening in the industry lately is that artists who have multiple disciplines do find success, because I think there's a singular voice to their art. It's like a triple threat actor who acts, sings, and dances, right? So when you're able to do all three, it makes you infinitely more hireable if you can only do one. And also, I think it's more fun to do the entire thing because when I was a kid, I wanted to color my drawings. I didn't want to just draw it in black and white. And when I was breaking in, I felt like at that time I had to draw it in black and white in order to pursue just one aspect of the job. But now I do all three because it's something that I really enjoy, and using Photoshop or Procreate or watercolor even, like if you check out my YouTube channel, I don't mean to plug it, but you'll see that I use different mediums, right? So there's really no rules because it's art. The only rules is that if you can put it on a page and you're telling a story, that's the only thing that you're bound to. Everything else is up to you.
Oh my gosh, amazing,
love that.
amazing. Wow, wow, wow. I should have been writing notes. I'm gonna look back at this video and I'm like,
Just rewind it, yeah.
Yeah, same here.
oh my gosh. Okay, well, that was amazing. We are out of time right now. So thank you so much for joining us today, Francis. This was a great conversation. Thank you to our wonderful co-host, Noah. And thank you to the amazing Epic Gen kids in the neighborhood, our cast members, for joining us today, and our audience. Make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube and to Francis's YouTube because there are a lot of great videos out there for artists who want to do comics, get into digital art. As you were saying, become the triple threat. And we will see you next time on another episode of Epic Generation in the Neighborhood. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.